So in this tutorial, let us try to understand how we can store the configurations of a Mule application and how we can use a property file to store those configurations and then use that property file as a configuration file into a Mule 4 application. So we will start with our basic application which we were using as my Mule application flow. I'll remove this set variable and transfer message component from here because we are not going to use them in this tutorial. What we are doing right now is we are sending the payload back. So let us change this payload to hello world as we were doing earlier. And in the logger also, let me type my custom message, which is I am an engineer. Okay, so here we go. We are here to store the configuration. So first of all, our listener where we were using these configurations, which is the connector configuration where we are using the host name and port number 8081. These are the global configuration. So how we can see the global configuration? We need to go to the global elements tab and we can see there is a configuration here which is http listener config, the same configuration which we are using in this flow. How can we say that this is a global configuration? Let me show you how we can say that. So let me add another http component, maybe a new http listener here. Okay, and we can use the same configuration in this listener also. So it will also listen at localhost colon 8081. The slash will remain the same and here the path will be changed as uh, application 2, and let me change the path of the first flow as application 1 so that we can clearly understand what we are saying here. Application 1. So both of these flows are using the same http listener configuration. What I'll do in logger is I'll change the logger as I am in application 1 and I'll add another logger component here. I am in application 2. Then I'll add set payload just to understand that we are saying that we are using two different APIs here in this tutorial or in this video. So in the first one we are returning hello world. Let me change it as I am in application 1 and the second one we will change it as I am in application 2. Here we go. So we have created one global element which is a configuration element, this one, which is listening the request at localhost 8081 and we are using it in two APIs. We can use it in as many APIs as we want. So in the listener configuration we are using http listener config. The path of this API is application 1 and in this flow we are listening at http listener config. The path of this application is application 2. So there are two APIs which are using the same global element and this is our global element which is common to both the APIs. So let's start this application and try to see how we can leverage the usage of the configuration in Mule application. It is saying that you are already running an instance of embedded Mule runtime. Do you want to stop the running application, start my first application? Yes, we would like to do that. We are going to stop the existing running application and then it will restart the Mule Enterprise Edition standalone server which is integrated in AnyPoint Studio with the changes in my first Mule application, and it will deploy the new application. So let's just wait for it to initialize the application to run the Mule Enterprise Edition server and then run this application. Then we will see what are we getting at slash application1 and slash application2. Here we go. We have deployed my first mule application. Now let us go to the Postman to check this. So we will create two new requests. One would be application 1 and second one would be application 2. Here we go. So in application 1, my URL is localhost colon 8081 slash application 1, and in application 2 our URL is the same. We just need to change the path, which is application 2. So let me run application 1 first. Voila, so we have got I am in application 1. It means this API, the first API has been called, and this is the info message, which is the logger message, which is saying I am in application 1. It has been called, and if we are calling application 2, then we will get the message as application 2, and the same logger will be printed here as application 2. So yes, our configuration parameters are working. Now we will see how we can use a property file to store these configurations. So right now we are using a global element which is http listener config, which we are using here, and where we are storing the information localhost and port number. Now we would like to see how we can store this port number, or maybe the path of the APIs slash API1 and slash API2 into a property file. We can store anything in a property file, like the database properties or the file properties or something else. So let us just add a property file into the resource folder. First of all, right click, go to new, go to other, type properties. Okay, so right click on this main resources, go to new and search for file. What we need to do is, so there is no property file in Mule 4 or the later version of MuleSoft. Rather, there is a YAML file. So we can create a YAML file as config.yaml and click on finish. Now our config.yaml is here. We can type any tag, whatever we would like to have. So I would like to have a config tag. Under the config tag, I would like to have the host parameter, which will be storing the information like this. Then there will be a port parameter, which will be storing information like this. There will be a application 1 parameter, which will contain a name as maybe engineer, and application 2 parameter, which will contain a name as doctor. Click save it as Control S. Now how we are going to use this configuration YAML into our application? For that we need to go back to our my first application.xml, go to global element and create global configuration, import, so select the configuration properties here. Since we are going to use the configuration properties, click OK. It will ask the file name, browse the file and select config.yaml file here. Click on OK and OK. So this config file is now available for Mule application. What we will now do is we will go to the configuration XML and we'll see whether this config file is a part of the application or not. So as we can see, this is the configuration properties, doc configuration properties, doc ID is some ID, and then file is the config.yaml. Now how we can replace these hard-coded values from here to use the config.yaml is config.host. Host will be our key to access this host. So what we need to do is we need to do it like this, dollar, and at the middle bracket type as config.host, and for the port it will be like dollar middle bracket config.port, something like this. Now we need to add this information below the config properties. This is not mandatory, but I am just doing it for the sake of readiness of this code. Let's try to see whether this application runs in a proper manner or not. So for that, what we will do is we will just go back to the message flow, click on listener, go to HTTP listener config, and we can see here are some variables present. Now we would like to start this application. So once this application is getting running, then we can check whether our properties from the YAML, from the configuration YAML file is being read or not. So right now we are using this host 0.0.0 and 8081 as a port in our my first mule application like this. So if you go to the listener, we can check here that we have put config.host and config.port as the variable from the configuration YAML file. So it has been deployed. So what we will do is we will again go back to our postman and try to see if application one is accessible. Oh yes, it is accessible. So that means our properties from the YAML file is working. Now to facilitate how is it working or not, we are adding two more properties into the configuration YAML, which is for application 1 the name is engineer, and for application 2 the name is doctor. So what we will do is we will use this config.application1.name parameter and then configuration.application2.name parameter to greet our user, so that we are so that we can check whether our configuration.yaml file is being read properly or not. So let me just stop the server first of all, so that we can do our changes into our application. Go to the my first mule application and go to the first flow, which is my first application flow. Now what we will do is we will use a transform message component before setting the payload. Right now the payload is having I am in application 1. Now in the transform message component, what we are going to do is we are going to have a content as we did had this last time, colon, and we will be using our parameter from the configuration file, which is the config.yaml file. So our parameter will be like config.application1.name. So we will use config.application1.name and we will store this as double quotes and then we will have dollar bracket middle bracket closed. So this is our variable. As we did last time, we have to create a variable first. So where output equals to this, so as you can see, this is getting an error here. So what we will do is we are going to use this variable as the direct variable. I'll show you how we can use it in data weave also, but in later videos. So let me delete this transform message component and set this variable in set payload, which is already set here. I am a, so what it will print is I am a engineer. So I am an engineer, just to correct the grammar, and we will save it as control S. And into the second application, what we will do is we will change the set payload, remove this application 2, and we'll say I am a config.application2.name, which is I am a doctor. So let us run this application and try to see what these APIs are returning now. So right click on the application, go to run as mule application. Again, it will take few seconds to load and run the application in the inbuilt platform of MuleSoft. Okay, so our application is deployed. Now go to the postman and try to see what is application 1 returning. As per our understanding, the application 1, which is this API, should return config.application1.name, which is storing engineer. So it should return I am an engineer, and the second flow, which is of application 2, it should return I am a doctor using this file. So let me just send this request. Wow, so we have received this input as I am an engineer. Now go to the application 2 and try to send the request, and we will get I am a doctor. So it means our YAML file is perfectly working, and we can store whatever information we would like to store in this YAML file. Thank you for watching this video.